Our Zach Sports followers will recall a couple of weeks ago we mentioned that a certain competition was making its way to the New South Wales Production Touring Car Championship, and that was, of course, the Aussie Driver Search, the brainchild of our good friend Kyle Austin. Kyle has been very nice enough to join us, along with the winner of the drive alongside Kyle. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll figure out later on in the weekend. But that is, of course, Duane West. We'll talk to Duane in just a moment. Let's start with you, Kyle. Great to see you, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. It's good to be here and part of New South Wales Production Touring this weekend.
Speaking of that, talk to me about the Aussie Driver Search, because this isn't just anything new. This has been happening for a year and a bit now. It is your brainchild. It was your idea, but a lot of people have helped you out along the way and got it up and running. You've also had a competition just recently, as recent, I should say, as this week. Tell me a little bit about the whole premise of the search, and then tell me how Duane ended up alongside you this weekend.
So motorsport is really something that's extremely hard to get into. There's lots of barriers involved with actually getting yourself into the driver's seat, and although many people would have the talent to be able to do it and to go well, budget is a big thing that does restrict them, as well as knowledge and access to resources and things like that also. So Aussie Driver Search stemmed from a competition last year, Pulsar Driver Search. That was basically just a bit of a pilot for what we've done this year, really stepped it up this year to a whole new level. But it's about giving anyone, no matter their background, experience, budget, whatever it may be, an opportunity to go out on an equal playing field and see where they're at purely from their talent. We had some people who are really experienced, some who aren't, literally no experience, to guys from lots of different backgrounds, including karting, drifting, even speedway and things like that. And we didn't care, some people do things like Carrera Cup, other guys do nothing. We don't care what you did beforehand. It was based off literally performances on the day, and from there we've managed to find some quite talented drivers like Duane, who's running here today, and on the weekend with the New South Wales Production Touring Cars, after winning the amateur competition, part of Aussie Driver Search.
We'll talk about the amateur competition in a moment. Another guy that was part of the contest, our own Josh Muggleton, of course, and I take it that he wouldn't be the only sim racer you had.
Yeah, we had a couple of guys who were actually really experienced in sim racing who came out. One person, Chris Thomas, did really well. He was out there a finalist in the pro competition. Chris has done a lot on iRacing, really quite quick, and he actually hasn't done any real-world racing prior to Aussie Driver Search, and he was actually in the top handful of people at the first day with his times, and did really well in the Aussie racing car as well. So sim racing is definitely a strong background as well, and it definitely seems that if you're an experienced sim racer, it does cross over to the real world, and that's what we're finding out with Aussie Driver Search.
That's been a real big change in how things roll in motorsport in the last couple of years, the role that sim racing is playing. And obviously from personal experience and from obviously first-hand seeing it happen in front of you, that sim racing is really giving us the stars of the future before they can hit the racetrack in some respects too.
Yeah, absolutely. The realism that it's getting to, and just how much is behind it now in 2016. It's not a new thing. Sim racing has been around for probably a good 10 years at quite a high level. I actually utilised some of it before racing here this weekend, and I definitely think it just helps getting your eye in, concentration. It is, quite similar in a lot of respects, quite different in a lot of respects as well, but it's quite hard to get yourself out on the racetrack. It's definitely one of the best tools to actually give yourself an advantage over your competition.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, talk to me about the amateur comp. What was the challenge? What was the task that had to be completed, or the several steps that had to fall into place for Duane to end up here?
So Duane was actually really lucky, along with the 39 other competitors in the amateur competition. They had a unique opportunity. It's not too often you actually get to ever do this as member of the general public. The competition was laps in the FG Ute, V8 Ute. It's currently racing the category, front running, modern spec car. It was actually campaigned by David Cedars to second in the championship a number of times, multiple race winner, really good, really nice car. So it's, lucky for people to get the chance to actually drive that. And David Cedars was actually the instructor, currently leading the V8 Ute Championship, and he judged Duane and the other drivers to determine the winner. So that opportunity to drive that car, to learn from David Cedars, I think is pretty unique. And then it's awesome as well for Duane to be out here and getting the opportunity to race with the New South Wales production touring cars as well.
Why New South Wales production touring? Obviously, we know a couple of other guys have stepped into the series. You've known about the series for a while. What was the motivation behind bringing the Aussie Driver Search to New South Wales production touring? And then obviously we'll talk about your involvement with TLA as well.
So New South Wales production touring cars, I think as a category, is really going from strength to strength. With the Bathurst 6 Hour this year, it was, a really well run, really high level professional event. It was great that that category could attract some of the national competition as well, and arguably I'd say, out here this weekend to attract the number of entries, it's probably more competitive than the national championship as well. So it's just a really great category. We're lucky in New South Wales to have something of that quality, and for us, it's a perfect stepping stone with the production cars. They're quite quick, good cars, but they're not radical over the top. They're the perfect entry level category that has that competitiveness behind it as well, which you really want, and obviously the grid numbers also.
Yeah, and obviously, how did you get yourself involved with TLA Racing and get in with Trevor Mirabito and his team to obviously drive the car this weekend?
So TLA Racing and Trevor have been extremely accommodating. I met Trevor through working for V8 Race for a number of years, and have known Trevor, built the relationship from there. And I found that, they really looked after us, and local team, local track and all that to me pretty much as well. And with Trevor, it was just a natural thing, obviously to go with him. Great quality cars, good team, and to be able to offer that, at a reasonable entry level to get my foot in the door with that from the competition as well. It's just a bit of a no-brainer to go with that. And so far, everything's been, extremely well. We're really happy with it all, and we're looking for a strong result over the weekend as well.
I'll hold that thought. I'll come back to you on that because it's been a while since I've seen you race here at Wakefield Park. Let's talk to Duane now because he's the other end of the story here, and probably the highlight of the story in many respects, because you've won this amateur competition. The prize was on offer for a ride here in the New South Wales production touring cars. Now you're out there in what is arguably the best production car category in the country, in amongst 36 other cars. How have you found day one?
Day one's been phenomenal at this stage. To be able to give the opportunity that Kyle's presented here with Aussie Driver Search, and to be able to win and come down here and drive the car that Trevor and TLA have prepared has been, great, I think.
Talk to me about, as we just dissect a few different things here, talk to me about your motivation and reasons behind going and entering yourself in the driver search to begin with.
I had a pretty big karting career when I was younger, and never made the step into car racing purely for the fact of funding.
Yep.
And when the search come up, I thought, what more of a great opportunity than to just go and drive a race car at a pace that I was comfortable at driving at. That's all I wanted to really do. And to be able to come away with a win and come here for the weekend has been, something out of the ordinary, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing. You're not the first one, you won't be the last one. How critical and how key a word funding is when you talk to people in motorsport. It is, as Kyle said in his opening monologue there, it's the one thing that holds people back, isn't it?
Oh, it sure is. Yeah, I mean, just making that leap from karting into car racing is a massive thing, and I guess a lot of people don't get that opportunity, and Kyle's sort of created that with Aussie Driver Search, so it's good.
I can safely say, after being back there a couple of weeks ago, karting isn't getting any cheaper either. So it's getting harder for people just to go kart racing. Talk to me about today, because obviously Friday practice, everyone's had a chance to go out and run around. How did you find not only the car but also the circuit? And obviously let's talk about the traffic management as well, because with 37 cars out there, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it has been busy, and Kyle was in the car this morning, so I was in this afternoon. So I guess a few of the other guys have had a little bit more running in the car than I have today. But all in all, the last 3 sessions that I was in today, we're happy with the progress, and each time we went out, we went a little bit quicker, and didn't really make any mistakes, and sort of just moving forward from there. So,
what's a track time for the weekend? Going forward, what are your personal goals and expectations this weekend? Are you hoping for a certain position finish, or are you just hoping to see the checkered flag?
I think the checkered flag would probably be the first thing, and if we can be competitive tomorrow, that'd be great. But it's probably just one step at a time at the moment, and just getting comfortable in the car and making sure we bring it back straight every time we go out, I guess, is probably the best thing at this stage.
Yeah, exactly right. And obviously that whole new experience, as you said, you had that experience in karting, but this is a whole different story. We spoke to Zach Radatz earlier in the broadcast, and he said, just looking in your mirrors now, and Jimmy Vernon was the same, and you'll hear that interview tomorrow if you're just tuning in, just looking in the mirrors and being aware of what's around you, and I'm sure you would have had that same experience.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's a completely different scenario than karting, and having big cars come down the side of you and stuff like that, the way you've got to brake and control the car through the corners is a little bit different, and it's all a bit of a learning curve at this stage. So, yeah.
All right, we'll come back to you in a second. Kyle, let's go back to you. As far as this weekend is concerned, because you've raced for a while in your own time, we haven't seen you on track for a little while here at Wakefield Park. Obviously, getting into a Holden. We've seen you in Pulsars and we've seen you in modern sports cars in the past. That's another different car for you. How have you found the circuit today, and how have you found the experience?
Well, it's quite challenging in the morning. We went out in wet conditions in the morning. It was really hard. I did 3 sessions in the morning. The second session was quite slippery as well. But luckily by the third session, I really felt that I got my eye in. I was holding my place pretty much with all the other cars. Not too many people went past me, which was good. And even though I've never raced a V8 before, I've done literally thousands of laps around here with V8 race in very similar cars. So it's not, a foreign environment for me. It's just getting familiar with the car and sort of how it handles, how much grip it has and how that works, which I think I'm pretty up to speed with. I think we are straight into a qualifying session in the morning, yes. So we'll be tricky with that number of cars, 36 cars on track, to try and get that clean lap. I was lucky today to get plenty of clean laps even with some quicker cars going past, and I'm pretty confident with traffic, and I know we won't be the ones sort of more down the tail end that have to worry about too many people going past. So I just really want to try and get a good lap in and get that good start in qualifying, and obviously the single driver race, that's the aim for tomorrow on Saturday. And I just want to, this is good, probably stepping up into a different calibre of drivers here versus the Pulsars and what I've run before. So I just really like to sort of show that as a driver I can mix it with those guys in both speed and racecraft and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'm pretty confident after the earlier session, and looking forward to them benchmarking myself in the field tomorrow and seeing where I'm actually at.
If you were to put a position on it, a specific number, at the end of an hour on Sunday, where do you see yourself?
Well, it's hard to say now, to be honest. I don't know the category, the competitiveness too much. If we could come away with somewhere around a top 10, it will be good. The single driver race for me will be a good indicator as well. Obviously, there's a lot more with pit stops and strategy and, Duane as well, getting up to speed and all the different variables with that. So I'll more be looking at my own qualifying performance and single driver race to go off that. But if I could be somewhere in the top 10 and have some experienced guys and names nearby or in front of, that would be quite well. But same thing for me, number one thing, I want to make sure Duane gets all his time in that he's won, and that we bring it back in one piece for Trevor as well. So that's the number one thing. But if I can put in a good performance, then I definitely plan to do that as well.
In terms of Duane's first day performance, what have you made of it?
Yeah, extremely well. I couldn't have asked for any more from Duane as a co-driver. Basically, we had a good look, and technique and lines and everything were spot on straight away. And, really you want someone who progressively builds up. You don't want to go out at 1,000,000 miles an hour with bad technique. You won't go as quick that way. And, same thing, we want to bring it back in one piece. So from that point of view, I'm pretty actually quite happy with the day from my perspective and how I went out there, as well as Duane. Couldn't ask for much more there, so I think everything went quite well, and we'll see after qualifying tomorrow where we're both actually at.
One more question for you in a moment. Duane, last question that I'm going to ask you, and this is obviously going forward, because the Aussie Driver Search has landed you here, what, in terms of motorsport, can you see yourself doing after this? Is this the launching pad to something bigger and better, or will this become something that you pursue, maybe a drive with another team in the NSW PTC?
To be honest with you, I haven't really given it a lot of thought yet. I think once I step away from it over the weekend, and even the enjoyment I've got out of it just today will be something that I might try and pursue if I can possibly get the funding up, I guess. That's probably the biggest thing.
Perfect. Great to see you. Good luck this weekend. Kyle, where to for the Aussie Driver Search, mate? Is this something that will continue? And obviously the numbers have been strong. Duane's excelled in a field of, I think you said it was 40 earlier on. You've had a pro competition as well. The winner of that was announced this week. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about the future of the ADS.
Yeah, definitely. I think, we've come so far from it. If you said to me last year with Pulsar Driver Search that I would have done what I've done this year with that calibre of vehicles and instructors and all of that, I'd be blown away. So while, most people don't really realise or understand how much goes in behind it, how much work it is, how much of a stress it really just consumes you for that 6-month period or so that you're working on it. So this weekend's a good relief for me to get, that out of my system, enjoy myself and go racing. Definitely, I think I've come too far not to continue on. Yep. But my main focus for now is to relax. I'm really focusing hard on the business side of things to try and get myself in the driver's seat as well. So I've recently launched a new driver training business, Australian Road Safety Academy, doing lots of learner driving, defensive driving, corporate training, stuff like that. So for the next, immediate future, that's my number one priority for now. But definitely I'm going to sit down in a few months and look at, what worked at Aussie Driver Search, what didn't. The amount I've learnt through the whole process is massive, and really, down the track, I think it's something, even though it's been difficult and it's, quite a big commitment and a lot to get happening, I think it's something that Australian motorsport really needs, and really, the limits of what we can do, can really go massive. It could be, much bigger, multiple states, hundreds of people giving it a shot, and then we could also transfer that into some really cool categories as well. So definitely, would love to join the New South Wales production touring cars at the Bathurst 6 Hour at some stage. I think that would be an absolutely awesome experience for those involved. Definitely, getting on the bill with the supercars is a big plan as well. We're achieving that. We'll be at the next round at Queensland Raceway of the Aussie racing cars. So getting into that market and achieving that is a big part of it, and definitely trying to extend it where if we could offer someone a season in a car or multiple rounds, that would be awesome as well. But really, it's just about getting the backing and the people as well. And I think what we've achieved, what we've done this year is really good, and that should be able to allow us to launch it and make some of those things achievable. But at the same time, I need to be realistic. Number one thing is that, I don't sort of bite off more than I can chew. As long as, I just take it step by step, it could be pretty cool. Fingers crossed, 5 years' time, it's still going, and we could be doing things like you get to drive in the Dunlop series or something like that, which would be pretty epic, and that would actually be a legitimate way to get people in front of supercar teams and, potentially putting people out and giving them that opportunity to go on to maybe endurance drives, the V8s, or with the talent get backed and actually go on to do that. And I think if I could achieve that, that would be a really unique way to unearth someone who's genuinely talented and get them up into a high level as well.
And that, I must say, is the longest answer we've ever had in the history of questions I've asked on 2MCA Sport. We don't have any more time. No, I'm only kidding. One more quick thing. You mentioned it, the funding and the support. So it's not just the drivers that are relying on that funding, it's your program as well.
Oh, big time
Yeah.
with that. And now that I've got some runs on the board, I'd really like to, get some support from maybe, more support from the categories. New South Wales production touring cars have been great. Aussie racing cars have been great. We didn't have that last year, so it's really good to have the category support this year, and we appreciate it a lot. And definitely, we could get, some companies on board, whatever that may be, partner with Racetracks, Marul and Driver Training Centre were great, who we worked with this year. Yeah. So from that point of view, I think that will help a lot as well. This year was good, it worked well, but it was extremely challenging, and I had to work, really hard just to make it viable and make it work. So definitely some of that stuff would release the stress, but I think it would be a great way at the same time to give a bit back to those people who get involved. Then we can give more back to the competitors, and it's just an all-round thing that which would really help the program and help everyone involved at all levels. So definitely that's something that we're looking at, and now we've got that the runs on the board like we have. I think really next year I'll be able to springboard that and make it much bigger and better again, which is exciting.
Great to talk to you, mate. Well done. Look forward to seeing how you two progress over the weekend. Good luck.
Cool. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate everything that New South Wales production touring cars are doing this week.